Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Welcome to the program Every Gain through Hussain, where we are trying to make ourselves better people through Imam Hussain alayhi salam. One of the best ways to become a better person is to become close to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And we see that in the traditions we have from the Ahlul Bayt, from the family of the Prophet, that they say, Bina urif Allah, through us Allah is known. Bina ubid Allah, through us Allah is worshipped. So they are the gateway towards true faith. They will teach you the explanations of the Quran, the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet of Islam. They will teach you what you should do in society and how you should live, and the best way to live, the best lifestyle that you have. So the closer you become to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the closer you become to these holy figures, the better of a person you will become, because they are complete individuals. So today we're going to talk about togetherness, ma'iyat, with Imam Hussain alayhi salam, because it is one of our du'as. We do du'as that we are with ma'akum, with the Ahlul Bayt, fi dunya wal akhirat, that I am with you, the Ahlul Bayt, with the dunya and the akhirat, in the hereafter. What better joy, what better reward to be with the Ahlul Bayt, to be with them in this world and the hereafter. This is what Habib ibn Madahir had, that at the age of 75, after being with Imam Ali, being part of Shurtatul Khamis, the five specific guards of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, at the age of 75, being with Imam Hassan, being with Imam Hussain alayhi salam, at the age of 75, how difficult it is for an older person to fight, and how he killed 60 people, they say, in the Battle of Karbala, that then he becomes martyred, and then his name is mentioned in the ziyarat, of one of the ziyarats, I believe in the 15th of Sha'ban, with Imam Hussain alayhi salam, that his name is with Imam Hussain. So we have this togetherness, that the companions of Imam Hussain were buried next to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and that some of them, their names specifically are mentioned with Imam Hussain. What a rank that they had, mashallah. So what does this togetherness mean? When we look at different explanations, one of the great books we have of Shifa al-Sudur, he mentions three types of possibilities for togetherness. We want to be with Imam Hussain in the world and the hereafter. One, he says, is qayyumiyya. And this is when something that is totally dependent on something else, we have two things. One is independency of the other, and if that first thing doesn't exist, the second thing doesn't exist anymore. This is called qayyumiyat, or sustainability. So therefore, there's sustainment. So when you say we are, for example, huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum, for Allah, He is with you wherever you are, and this is in 57, chapter 57, verse 4. He is with you wherever you are, meaning that you can say that sustainability. When Allah exists, because He exists, therefore we exist. And that if you ever remove that connection with God, you would vanish and you wouldn't exist. So it's sustainment. A lot of people, they think about God as just a creator, and He's just created us, and then there's no need for Him anymore. Na'udhu billah. But no, every millisecond, even less than that, there's this sustainment. He is qayyum, meaning that we are being sustained from God. So can we say that this togetherness that we say with Imam Hussain, this ma'iyat here, is this type of ma'iyat, meaning that there's this total dependency? Maybe you could say that in terms of Imam Hussain being wasitatul faith, being a medium for God's blessings and grace to reach creation. And the Imams are wasitatul faith, that through them the blessings of Allah are showered. And we see, for example, in Ziyarat al-Jami' al-Kabira, become yunazzilul ghayth. Through you, the Ahlul Bayt, through your blessings, God sends His rain, and God sends down His blessings. Maybe in this view, you could say that Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the channel that Allah and the prophets and the imams are the channels that Allah sends his blessing to. But another way we could say togetherness, we want to be with Imam Hussain in the hereafter, in this world and the hereafter, is by musahiba, that is companionship. That is physically being with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Well, he has been martyred. What can we do with this togetherness? Meaning that physically you could say that you are one of those that consistently does ziyarat of Imam Hussain in Karbala. You're always with him. Many people, sometimes they live in Karbala. They're always with the shrines. They're visiting them every day. So there's that togetherness, because the Imam's graves are sacred. When you say salam to them, they're returning their salam, your salam. So either you're with him in the shrine, or you're with him in his majalis, in the programs that we have. Either they're physical and you attend your masjid, your center, your Husainiyah, or they're online, and that's a majlis that comes to your house and you connect. So don't just think of those as not as real majalis. Those are majalis and programs that you have for Imam Hussain that are coming because because of the situation with the coronavirus right now. Or you could say, for example, that your heart is always with Imam Hussain. That togetherness means you're always thinking of him. You're always thinking of Karbala. You're crying for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And they asked, for example, Ayatollah Muhammad Baqir Assad, how many hours a day do you study? He's a great usuli in terms of roots of Islamic jurisprudence. He was very strong. And in terms of theology, he was very strong. So they asked him, how many hours do you read? You know so much. He says, don't ask me how many hours I read. Ask me how many hours I'm with the books. Because when I'm walking, when I'm going to get something, I'm thinking of those subjects in the books. So in the same way, when you're thinking about God, His religion, when you're thinking about the story of Imam Hussain, especially this Muharram in Safar, you want to be with Imam Hussain, either in those majalis, or you're thinking about them. You're not detached from them. The third, we can say this, is rohaniya, meaning in terms of matching. When things are together, they match. So to be with Imam Hussain means that you begin to match him and you begin to become like him in terms of attributes of perfection, in terms of behavior. For example, Imam Hussain alayhi salam sacrificed. They had ithar. So you learn to sacrifice for the way of God. You learn to sacrifice for your brothers in Islam, for your sisters in Islam, for humanity. You learn to treat them very well. Once you have this attribute, you're matching Imam Hussain alayhi salam. You're with him in terms of attributes, or in terms of courage. When Imam Hussain alayhi salam, after all his friends were martyred, after all his family members that were fighting were martyred, at the end, he didn't run away from that battlefield. Imagine 10,000 people, and you don't have Habib anymore. You don't have Zuhair anymore. You don't have Abbas anymore. You don't have Ali Akbar, your son, anymore. Nobody is there. Just your family members, the women and children in the tent, and then just you and this ocean of soldiers, of arrows, of spears, and daggers, and swords. And you charged, and you go into such an ocean. So you learn courage, that when we are living life as Muslims, wherever we live, that you become courageous like Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That you might see people that might be hostile towards you. They might not have a true good understanding of Islam. But you don't become afraid. You don't lose fear. You don't lose your courage. You don't fear them. That you want to educate them. You want to share Islam with them. And that sometimes you have to do your prayer. It's at the place and it's going to become, the time is running out. And you don't have a specific place to pray. You might have to pray in the street sometimes. You might have to pray in an airport sometimes, or in an airplane sometimes. You don't fear them anymore. You say that I'm living because I have a goal in life, and that is to submit to God, to make Him, to satisfy Him. I choose his satisfaction over the people's satisfaction. To be courageous. So when you talk about courage, when we talk about sacrifice, when it comes to loyalty, when it comes to so many different lessons we learn from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we understand this fact that when you become like him, you have that togetherness. And you see, that is the best way for someone to become good. And that is, actually attaining, this maximum potential that we have. Shaykh Mutahari, the great teacher, used to say that you can either take things physically, so if you want to take a bundle of steel beams, you want to move them, how heavy it is, or you can get a magnet. When you get a magnet and you remove those things, automatically it's very easy to lift a bundle as opposed to trying to lift it by yourself. That is the same way when you become in love with Imam Hussain. When you start to become like Imam Hussain, it's like a magnet. Inside of you, it becomes cleansed, and all those attributes of greediness, selfishness, say polytheism, atheism, separation from God, that all becomes removed from yourself, and you become a true muwahhid, a monotheistic person, because through the love of Imam Hussain. So you see, the love and togetherness of Imam Hussain is very fruitful at the same time. So we talked about 3 types of togetherness. One we said is qayyumiyya, meaning that there is a need, a sustainability. 2, we talked about in terms of musahaba, physical togetherness. And 3rd, we're talking about ruhaniyya, that we start to match Imam Hussain. But this togetherness at the end, we're going to talk about something. And that is, when we ask about ourselves, why should I strive so hard to become a Muslim? Why can't I just limit myself to the bare minimum? Because there's a maximum joy in Islam. We elevate our level of joy. We get a metaphysical joy that is unparalleled. And those that, especially that love Imam Hussain, that cry for him, remember that some of the most joyous occasions that they have is that togetherness with Imam Hussain. So that lidda, that joy that you have, the taste of halawatul iman, of sweetness of faith, that togetherness you have is unparalleled with any other joy that you have in this world and the hereafter. Actually, there's traditions that from all the joys in the hereafter, the best of those joys is being next to holy figures. You look at some of the traditions we have that talk about in common or ziyarat, to talk about those that in the Day of Judgment their eyes will be crying, everyone's eyes, but those that cried for Imam Hussain, their eyes will not be, they will be joyous. And then it tells them that before they enter heaven, there'll be those that hum huddath al-Hussain, there'll be a group of people that they'll be speaking with Imam Hussain. Taht al-arsh, right under the arsh of God. يَقُولُونَ لَهُمْ أُدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ, they'll say, enter heaven, come to heaven, but they're speaking with Imam Hussain. They have that togetherness. But that togetherness is so valuable that they don't want to enter heaven yet, because Imam Hussain is their heaven. And it says, وَيَخْتَارُونَ مَجْلِسَهُ فَيَأْبَوْنَ وَيَخْتَارُونَ مَجْلِسَهُ وَحَدِيثَهُ. They resist. They don't go to heaven yet. They choose and they prefer the majlis of Imam Hussain, sitting next to him and speaking with him. So this shows us that when you become spiritual and you start to develop your spirituality, you begin to live life and enjoy life in the maximum level. So if you want, brothers and sisters, to have a good life, an enjoyable life, be with Imam Hussain in the dunya, be with Imam Hussain in the akhirat. That is the highest reward that we can have. And it says, and finally there's traditions, even women of the paradise come to them. As we have in the hadith, it says, فَمَا يَرْفَعُونَ رُؤُوسَهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ. And they don't even raise their heads to look at them, the pleasures of the hereafter. Imagine how different pleasures can exist in the hereafter. From all of those, compared to speaking with Imam Hussain, the majlis of Imam Hussain, the speech of Imam Hussain, they prefer that. So brothers and sisters, I'm sure that in this Muharram and Safar, you've noticed that when you cry for Imam Hussain, you cry for his children. You cry for his children after he was martyred. And what happened to him? You cry for his companions, for himself. That there is this sweetness, even though in every hum and gham and grief is and naturally is bad, but in this type of grief, in this type of crying, there's complete joy. There's this sincere feeling of attachment to Imam Hussain that is unparalleled to any other worldly benefit, any other feeling that we can have. So inshallah, this Muharram, we can increase our togetherness with Imam Hussain, and we can inshallah ask Allah to give us inshallah be with Imam Hussain and his companions and with the Ahlul Bayt and the Prophet of Islam, his family, in this dunya and the hereafter. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته طيبين طاهرين.